Hi everyone, and this is Pyjama Talks in the field, and we are at the WebExpo conference, and today my guest is Ondra Urban. Hi Ondra.
Hi Evgeny, nice to meet you.
So let's talk a little bit about yourself. Because this is the most important thing. So what do you do?
I lead a team of engineers who are doing web scraping for a living. So that means we extract data from the web, we automate tasks on the web, we are interconnecting systems that cannot be connected together otherwise, because you need to have normally some humans doing some labor in between. But because we can robotize browsers, we can have machines do this kind of work and interconnect systems that were not, previously possible to connect.
What is the legal / ethical part of this? Because web scraping, sometimes people tend to think about it like something like in the gray area.
I actually finished writing a blog post that I was promising to our company, Apify, about for 3 years, I think, because I'm a lawyer. I have a master's in law, and I made a switch to engineering. So I was promising, and finally it's out. And I can tell you that, web scraping is legal. It's like any other thing in the world. You need to follow certain rules. There are boundaries. Of course, you cannot scrape everything. It's like taking pictures with your camera. I can take a picture of this building. Yeah, sure. I might not be able to take a picture of you whenever I want, like where you're at home, I'll be taking a picture of you through the window, right?
Yeah.
I probably cannot take a picture of an army base. So this is the same with web scraping. There are some websites or some data that you should not scrape, or you should be very careful when scraping this kind of data, like personal data, for example. It's a very hot topic in web scraping nowadays. But for example, scraping prices from an online store, this is completely fine, completely legal. And I would say that 99% use cases are completely legal. You just need to be careful about what you do with the data and not to damage the reputation or the website in any way of the website that you're scraping.
So you have, for example, you have some things in your legal information at websites, so I, as a developer, cannot scrape all sites in the world.
Yeah, ideally, you should not scrape all sites in the world. It's probably going to be very difficult. Good thing to take into account is whether there's any copyright involved, for example.
Yeah.
So when scraping images, for example, it's okay to scrape the links, but you should not scrape the images and then republish them somewhere on your website, especially not trying to say, hey, those are my images, because that's not web scraping, that's piracy.
Can I scrape something behind the password, behind the, like you should authorize, for example, into some social network or anywhere?
Yes, that's one of the problematic use cases. It's not strictly illegal, but you need to check the terms of use of the service. Because normally, when you sign up for a service, you have to agree to the terms of the service. And by agreeing to the terms, you need to behave in a certain way. And if the terms say that you should not scrape the website or do some automatic tasks in there, then you should not scrape the website. But this is only limited to the part of the website which is hidden by the password or login. If this website also has public pages, like social networks typically do, you can visit data from Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, even without logging in. There are some limitations, of course, to the data, but you can see them and you can scrape them because those are public. And because you have not agreed to their terms, and because it's just a very normal thing to do to be able to collect data that's publicly available in the world. It's like if you were walking downstairs there and you were taking notes of the prices.
Yeah.
Nobody would come to you and say, oh, this is illegal, are you taking notes of my prices? That does not make any sense.
But usually websites, not all websites, but usually they kind of limit robots or scripts or like for example, headless browsers to come to the page because for some reasons, like Facebook, they usually do that.
Yeah.
And is it a problem for you, for your company?
I would say it's a challenge, not a problem, because yes, they do this, but it might not be legal even for them to do this. There's this new case law in the US. It's HiQ versus LinkedIn, where basically the court says, hey, LinkedIn, you are not allowed to block scraping of your public pages. So yes, they try to block you, but most of the time, if it is legal to scrape the data, you can just overcome the blocks or the problems they put in your way and try to figure out how to do it. For example, with the headless browsers, the very important thing is to use a proper fingerprint.
Many websites, they even block, they don't like API. If you overuse API like Twitter, they usually like, okay, you should use us as we told you, not as you want to.
And this is again something that is not out of my head, but it's from the case law which is now running in America. Any company that runs a website should not be able to choose whether some data can be scraped or collected by a specific person if the data is generally public. Yeah, they should not be able to tell you if you can, oh, I can get here with a browser, but I can't get there with a script. It's not up to them to decide. It's your freedom to choose if you want to browse the web with a browser or with a script, and both should be allowed. If that were not the case, then the websites could not only block scrapers, but they could block somebody because of their gender, color, race, whatever. Because if you give them the power to block anybody based on anything they decide, then it's like not allowing certain people into your pub because, and that's what, 1930s or 1950s?
You're gonna talk about web scraping, right?
Yeah.
Like in general, or let's talk about your talk.
Most people, when you talk about web scraping, they think of it as extracting data.
Yeah.
But really, that's a very small part of the problem. It is the end goal, but it is not the process. So I want to show in my talk what the process actually is, how difficult or what are the interesting parts there, what you often need to do to actually be able to get to the data before you can extract them.
And what is the outcome from your talk? You want to force people to use web scraping or show that it's not that hard to do?
I just want to show them that maybe they were thinking about web scraping differently. Like you asked, that maybe it's a niche thing, maybe it's not that interesting, maybe it's just about simple extraction of data. So I want to show them that it's an interesting process, even for the devs who are doing it, it's interesting to learn, and also that it's being used by companies all over the world and it's completely normal to do it.
How you personally come from being a lawyer to engineering manager in web scraping company? Like, this is the long journey.
Yeah, it's a long story. I finished law school and I was training for my bar exams, and I just did not like it. I kind of never liked it in a way that I would feel I have a purpose as a lawyer. I mean, I have a lot of friends who do like it. It's just for me personally, it was not the case. So at some point, I just looked at myself and I was like, do I really want to do this for the next 30 years of my life? I mean, yeah, it's good money, but I'm sure there's something else where you can get good money and also have fun and kind of feel that you're building something or making a difference. So I started interviewing with different tech companies, and obviously I failed because I had no technical knowledge. But they were always telling me like, yeah, you're good, maybe you could do sales or something. I was like, no, that's not what I want. So I applied to college, and at the end of the first year, because yeah, I mean, the school was important, but not super important. I was doing, 10 hours of coding every day. I really wanted to change my life, so it took me quite a lot of time, quite a lot of effort. But by the end of the first year, I was actually able to land my first developer job. So then I kind of made switch from law to engineering. When I was studying, of course, I needed some money, so I was still working as a lawyer part-time. And then I switched to engineering, and I've been, engineering ever since. And maybe I think that the previous experience from law made me able to become a leader of a team earlier, or to get involved more in other than engineering parts of the company, because I understood the business a bit more and I understood other parts of running a startup more than if I just started as an engineer.
What is the best position in IT for someone who has a background being a lawyer?
What is the best position?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Developer advocate. Because
fair enough.
Yeah. Your company. So what kind of offers do you have? Like, who is your client?
Apify is a platform, right? So
and open source, right?
Yeah, I mean, most of our tools are open source. The platform is not open source, but everything we use for scraping is open source. And so anybody can come to the platform. We have a free plan, so you can start playing with it immediately, testing things out. Then we have a lot of clients who come to us and we don't even talk to them because they just figure out something from our docs and keep running it, like if they were using AWS or some other cloud company that just provides the infrastructure. Then we have another tier of clients who come to us and say, hey, I have this small project that I would like to do. Can you help me with it? And we have a pool of developers, we call them freelancers, who are all over the world. And we basically pair you with the developer. So the business and the dev, it's like Upwork or Freelancer. Yeah. But the difference is that we actually have we also have the infrastructure. It's not only about matching the people, but also about running the software solution for them. And then there are bigger and bigger clients, up to many Fortune 500 companies who pay us a lot of money, and we provide a fully managed solution for them. So we really talk to them, we design the solution for them, we figure out what their actual needs are, and then we run it for them for the coming years, basically. So the most powerful thing about the platform is that we build it, which is a small part of the job, but then we run it. So we don't only get money for being a software house for developing solutions. Most of our income or most of our revenue actually comes from running it.
You are giving people choice. You can use open source Apify, or you can, but you should run it somewhere on some machine.
For example, the Apify SDK, which is the most important library we have for scraping, it's kind of the umbrella over all the other technology. You can run it on your computer, you can run it on AWS, really anywhere on Heroku. Yeah, it's platform agnostic in Node.js, and whatever you can run Node.js, you can run this, even on Lambda. Free users use it. Our users who are developers and develop the solution themselves use it, and we use it for the enterprise clients as well. And we deploy this to Apify platform if this is a fully managed solution, or the other clients, they just use it as open source and deploy it wherever they want.
What do you think? What is the future of web scraping? Because is it goes to somewhere totally forbidden? You know, big corporations, they will say no web scraping, this is our data. Or it will be more liberal and we will see, some widespread of scraping.
I think it's going to be very widespread very soon, because the benefits are just enormous. Yeah. It is beneficial for the society to be able to process all this data that is on the internet. It is not beneficial for everybody to be safeguarding data which is not theirs, because data cannot be copyrighted. You cannot copyright a price. It's just data. So yes, you can copyright a photo, but we're not scraping photos. We're scraping links to photos and so on. And 90% of our business is scraping data that's not copyrightable. There's a huge benefit for everybody, from small devs who can integrate their tools better, who can get data that was otherwise only available to big companies. Yeah, because Google, for example, is the largest web scraping company in the world. Yeah. And they can do whatever they want, and they do it internally. But it should be available even for other people, other companies. You should be able to do the same Google is doing, and you shouldn't be afraid that it's something wrong. And I think it's changing. I think it's changing in Europe, because in Europe we have the DSM directive, the Digital Single Market Directive. And it basically says that for data mining, which needs to be a transformative process, you can't just take the website and post it somewhere else. But if you take the website, extract the data, and then do something with the data, it's a transformative process. So transformative processes are not even allowed to be banned for research, and they can be banned or opted out by companies, but they need to do it in a machine-readable format. So web scrapers will have this framework where they know, okay, this website, I'll send the robot there, and the robot will automatically know if it can scrape. It doesn't have to go through terms, it doesn't have to call anybody, it's just there. And the interesting thing, and this is about to play out, but what I think is, as the owner of the website, you will either have to ban scraping or allow scraping. You won't be to certain parts of your website. You won't be able to say, oh, Peter is allowed to scrape, but Paul is not allowed to scrape. And that's very important, because if they want to be scraped by Google, they also will need to be scraped by other companies, and everybody will have access to the data, which is fair and ethical.
Well, sounds really impressive, and I think maybe as a leader of the group in web scraping company, maybe what advice can you give to people, or what is the outtakes of your talk?
Do not be afraid, because there's no reason to. It's perfectly legal, perfectly fine. If you stay ethical, if you don't take a small website and unload 10 million requests on it. Try to use empathy. Try to stay, in sync with the website you're scraping. I would say, from an engineering standpoint, take a look at it, because it is an interesting field. It's not something that just flies by around, but it's something that lets you solve really interesting problems. And it's kind of a cat and a mouse game between the scrapers and the anti-scrapers. So you always have a new challenge to solve. So it's fun.
Thanks. Thank you very much. And thank you guys, and see you in the next one.